to deliver the keynote address.
Vedo khilo dharma moolam, dharmo vishwasya jagatah pratishtha, yogi tallajaha manyaha Shri Shri Ramadevji Mahodayaha, Lokasabha sadasyaha mananiyaha Anantakumara Vayyaha, Sakutumbaha, evancha Divyajnanandagiri Mahodayaha, Doddapullaparataha Agataha, Mahamahopadhyayaha Vaidyalinga Shastrinaha, Veda Vidvamsaha Shri Krishna Ghanapati Charanaha, Shabda Brahmanaha Pracharyaha Venkatasubbaya Varyaha, Veda Samstha Talaja Durinaha Dr. Rupa Kishore Shastrinaha, Mahavidvamsaha Aruna Kumar Upadhyaya Varyaha, Dr. E.G. Rajan Mahodayaha, Dr. Vivek Javali Mahashayaha, Karyapatavaha Srivatsa Mahodayaha, Shriman Sudhakar Sharman, Sabhasado Vidvamsaha Vidushyaha, Jnanavruddhaha Vayovruddhaha, Mama Suhridascha, Mahadidam Sthanam Pramodasya, Yat Rashtriyamidam Vaidika Vijnana Sammelanam, Karnataka Rajyasya Rajadhanyam Prachalati. Atra Mayaiva Keynote Address Deyam Iti Suchitavadhyaha Shivadhyaha Krishna Bhatta Varyebhyaha Namaskaram Atra Samsuchya Mama Dattaha Kalaha Alpiyaneva Iti Kritva Aham Angla Bhashaya Kinchit Prastavami Sarvesham Avagama Saukaryaya. It's a pleasure to be in this National Conference on Vedic Sciences. This is the second conference that is being held in Bangalore. There are 6 Goshtis as you have seen in the invitation. The Santa Goshti, Mahila Goshti, Bala Goshti, Vijnana Goshti, Yuva Goshti and Madhyama Goshti. Thus, this conference covers a wide area of fields and interests. It is very befitting that this conference is being held in Karnataka, which gave birth to Sayana, the greatest of commentators. An encyclopedic mind. Sayana wrote 6 Sudhanidhis, Subhashita Sudhanidhi, Alankara Sudhanidhi, Purushartha Sudhanidhi, Ayurveda Sudhanidhi, Yajnatantra Sudhanidhi, and Prayaschitta Sudhanidhi, and many more works. It is Karnataka which also gave birth to 2 massive encyclopedias in Sanskrit, namely Manasollasa and Shivatattva Ratnakara. People speak of the 7 wonders of the world. I declare from this august podium that if there is one supreme wonder of the world, the first wonder of the world, it is the Vedas. I have 4 reasons to make this claim. Number 1, it is the vastest of religious literature to be found in any country, of any religion. The Abrahamic faiths are all described and referred to as single book religions, but the Vedas are a very vast library, and a single lifetime is insufficient to study the entire Vedic literature along with its limbs. Reason number 2, it is also the oldest literature in the world. The world opens its eyes and sees the entire Vedic literature all at once. And 3, this is also the best preserved literature in the world. There is no literature in the world that has been preserved so intact. Every letter has been preserved with its accent. And this you must know that this was at a time when there was no technology of preservation and propagation. This way is one of the wonders of the world that this text has been preserved for millennia without a single change. Across this country, from Kashmir to Cape Comorin and Attock to Cuttack, we find that the entire Vedic literature has been preserved for thousands of years and recited in the same manner throughout the length and breadth of the country. And the 4th most important reason is the way the Vedas were discovered. It has been very well said, Yugantentarhitan Vedan Setihasan Maharshayah Lebhire Tapasa Purvam Anujñata Swayambhuva. It is through tapas that this entire Vedic literature was discovered. And for these four reasons, the Vedic literature has no parallel in the world. And for this reason, again, it can verily be called the first and supreme wonder of the world. Again, India is also the greatest land. I have four reasons for the same. Number one, the supreme importance that was given to the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge. And the Bhagavad Gita says, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. Knowledge is supreme. Such high importance to the pursuit of knowledge was not given in any other country. And number two, the way this Vedic literature was propagated. Says Patanjali in his Mahabhashya, Brahmanena nishkarano vedaha sasadango adhyayaha jnayascha. So, without any royal incentive, without any royal patronage, this Vedic literature was passed on from generation to generation in every nook and corner, in every village of India by the Brahmanas who were the custodians of this knowledge. And number three, the techniques for the preservation of the Vedas was also an extraordinary one. We have what are called the 14 Vidyāsthanas, which are marked for the preservation of the Vedic literature. We have the 4 Vedas and the 6 Angas, Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Chandaha, Niruktam, Jyotisham Tatha, Kalpascheti Shadangan, Vedasyahur Manishinaha. These 6 Angas and also the 4 Upavedas, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda and Sthapatya Veda or Arthashastra. All these put together constitute the 14 Vidyāsthanas, and it is with these that the entire Vedic literature, the text as well as its content and message are preserved for thousands and thousands of years. So vast is the literature that is produced in Sanskrit that in a recent conference on computational linguistics, it was computed that the number of manuscripts that are available in Sanskrit runs to 5 million, which are yet to be published for the first time. India has 2 other aspects of greatness. Namely, India never attempted to convert any person into its own fold. And number 2, further, there has not been in the history of India a single war waged to conquer other nations, to convert them or impose their religion upon others. If the entirety of East Asia and the Far East have always paid homage to Hinduism, it is because of its intrinsic merit and worth and not on account of any force or compulsion. India is also a land of harmony. The policy of live and let live has been written large throughout the pages of the history of India. We have always said, Kevalagho bhavati kevaladi. Do not enjoy all alone. Distribute your enjoyment to others. Shriyadeyam, Hriyadeyam, Bhiyadeyam, Ma Gridhaha Kasya Svidhanam. As against all these, we can see how the West has been home to a great deal of disharmony. In the West, we find that there has been a constant conflict between the church and the state on the one hand, and church and science on the other. Never in the history of India we can hear of any Galileo or Bruno being attacked by the church or by the government and put to punishment and torture. Here, it is in India that science has always had a free growth. Only last month, there was a book released in this very mythic society. The book written by R.N. Iyengar on Parashara Sutra. So the text goes to more than 1200 BC. It's a book on mathematics. Lagadha, who wrote Vedanga Jyotisha, his date is 800 BC. So the great works of Ayurveda, as of Charaka and Sushruta, and the concept of rhinoplasty itself originated in India. And this way, India has been a land of the singular pursuit of knowledge and also the spread of knowledge. We hear from the various travelers that came from the different parts of the world how India was a sort of a Vishwa Guru. The Chinese travelers like Huan Sang, Yit Sing and others came to India to study at the great universities of India. Thus, India has constantly pursued knowledge. Contrast this with, for example, I can give you one example of the Tuscan Jesuit missionary, Roberto di Nobili, who came to India in 1608, and his very purpose, his avowed purpose was to convert people here to Christianity, and therefore he put on the guise of a Brahmin, and he used to wear wooden software, he used to wear dhotis, and he tried to confuse the locals here, representing himself as the true Brahmin. So pursuing the Brahminical lifestyle, and it is in this way that he converted thousands and thousands of people. And he said that his is the true Veda, making a reference to the Bible and say that this is the fifth Veda. India has never had any such pursuits or program of converting others to its own fold. It is the true Catholicity of spirit that we find in Hinduism. We tend to go to two extremes when we speak about the Vedas. One extreme is to say that all Veda is nonsense. There is nothing useful for us today here in the Veda. The other extreme is to go to say and claim that all that is found by the latest scientists is all found in the Vedic literature. We must avoid both extremes. There is no point in making tall claims and say that everything that is found in modern science is also found in the Vedas. That is not the case at all. On the other hand, there are a good many scientific ideas which need to be explored objectively and presented before the audience. And some of the speakers in this conference are making a genuine attempt to present the ideas that can be found in the Vedic literature. It is from a spirit of inferiority complex that we try to seek the Vedic idea, all the modern ideas in the Vedic literature. We have a complex that what modern science says is the greatest thing, and therefore want to establish that these are there in the Vedas. It is not the case. The Vedic science is one which is of a different sort and a superior one. If we want to speak of the essence of the Kathopanishad, we can say it shows the difference between who is a Bala and who is a Dhira. The Upanishad says, Paranchikhani Vyatranas Swayambhus Tasmat Parang Pashchitin Antaratman Kashchid Dhiraf Pratyagatman Amikshad Avritta Chakshur Amritattamichan. So it is only a person who can turn his gaze inwards in the attitude of tapas with the yogic pursuit that can be called a true Dhira. And all others who are pursuing things, materialistic things outside of themselves, are the ones who are balas. The same Upanishad says, Parachah kaman anuyanti balaha. And therefore the yogic science stands as the supreme science. And if we try to crave the recognition of the world by trying to prove that either the steam engine is there in the electricity or in the Vedas, or electricity is there in the Vedas, if we make such vain attempts to prove trivial things, what if the theory of gravitation is present in the Vedas or not present in the Vedas? It is a trivial thing. The greatest thing in the world, the most tough thing in the world is the performance of tapas and the regulation of mind. It was M.B. Emino of Berkeley University who said that India has made achievements in two great fields, and those two fields are the toughest ones. What are those two fields? Study of language and study of mind. The physical sciences can make easy advancement because it is easy to make an objective study of them. But when it comes to a study of language and the study of mind, they are utterly subjective, and it is very difficult to study. And that way, the contribution of Panini is extraordinary, and the contribution of Patanjali is extraordinary. Panini studied language, the phenomenon of language, and Patanjali studied the phenomenon of mind. And even to this day, there has not been a single grammar in any of the languages of the world which can be compared to Panini's grammar. And to our utter amazement, we find that the most modern computer scientists have been rediscovering the very principles that Panini propounded in his Ashtadhyayi, the ones that are useful for natural language processing. So the very same principle of Panini's Karaka system is being rediscovered by the West. And similarly, yoga has made a great conquest to the West. And that way we find that the study of mind and the study of language, the most two difficult fields, have been mastered by Indians millennia ago. It all goes to BC, and it's not some recent development. Such is the great achievement of our country in these two fields. Who is a person who can be called a true knower of the Vedas? The Bhagavad Gita gives a definition. Urdhumulam adhashakham ashwatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavit. A vedavit is a person who knows this mysterious tree, the roots of which are above and the branches of which are below. It undoubtedly refers to the human body itself, and it is this inward science that has been mastered. I must conclude with a note on the new type of terrorism that is being practiced by the West. It can be called an intellectual terrorism. And in this intellectual terrorism, they are trying to foo-foo every Hindu idea as something insignificant or as something that has been discovered by themselves. You know that how yoga has now been metamorphosed into newer and newer brands called Christian yoga, Jewish yoga, Islamic yoga, and others. And all of them are misleading. In fact, there have been books, as for example by Mark Singleton, who says that the yoga has nothing to do with Hinduism, and these are distortionary attempts. And a number of books are being written in the West to, for example, even discredit Hinduism itself. So Rajiv Malhotra of America has written 2 books called Being Different and Breaking India, in which he shows how the leftist, the communist, the Marxist, and the Christian and Muslim forces are joining hands to destroy India. He has produced ample evidence. His other book, Being Different, which shows the true Indianness of Indians, has been translated by myself and my wife and is being released on January 19th. It has been translated into Kannada, in which he shows the true greatness of Indians and how Westerners are perpetrating this intellectual terrorism. Rajiv Malhotra also gives a call for us to go to the roots of Hinduism and also understand the West. Unless we understand the Purva Paksha of the West, we cannot conquer them, we cannot criticize them, and we cannot defend ourselves. So this is the land of Sayana. As it said, Sayana was also a great warrior. It is said of him, Jagad Veerasya Jagarti Kripana Sayana Prabhoho Kimityete Vrthatopaha Garjanti Paribandhinaha. He was also a great warrior. Being born in India, if a person does not perform tapas, Bhartrihari says the life of such a person is useless. Hear his wonderful message. He says, Sthalyam Vaiduryamayam Pachati Thilakalam Chandanair Endhanogaihi Suvarnair Langalagrair Vilikhati Vasudha Markatulasya Hetoho Chitva Karpura Khandan Kritimiha Kurute Kodravanam Samantat Prapyemam Karmabhumim Charatina Manujo Yastapo Mandabhagyaha. The man who is born in this karma bhumi, that is Bharata, and performs no tapas or austerities is indeed unlucky. He is like a person who is cooking the cakey sediment of sesamum in a pot made of the gem Vaidurya using sandalwood as fuel. He is like a person who digs the earth with the golden tips of the plow, but for the sake of the cotton of the sun plant. He is like a person who chops off the camphor trunk in order to erect a fence around the cheapest of grains. We may add today, he is like a person who uses a supercomputer capable of millions of parallel and complex operations for the additions of single digits. It is so stupid to have been born in India and not to pursue tapas. I end my talk with the great message of the Vedas. Uttishtata, ma swapta, agnivichhadvam bharataha. Namaskar.